Today, we're taking you back to a seemingly ordinary afternoon that, well, it shattered lives and exposed this terrifying undercurrent of obsession. Picture Kenosha, Wisconsin, May 9th, 2019. Just after 2:00 p.m., right? A 16-year-old named Kaylie Juga was on her way home from Bradford High with her mother, Stephanie.
Yeah, just their usual routine. Music playing, windows down.
Yeah.
Those small everyday moments.
Exactly, the kind of moments that just define family life. But less than an hour later, that peace was just obliterated.
Utterly. A sudden piercing sound, 7 gunshots, and then screams.
One vibrant young life was tragically lost, another forever changed, and it kicked off this incredibly meticulous investigation that would unravel just a chilling, chilling story.
It's a stark, deeply unsettling reminder, isn't it, of just how quickly that illusion of safety can just crumble. So this deep dive is really about meticulously unraveling that complexity. We're going to explore with you how this intricate tapestry of evidence from, raw, deeply personal testimony to the cold, hard precision of surveillance footage allowed investigators to piece together this harrowing human story.
Right.
Our mission today really is to extract those key insights into the chilling dynamics of control, of obsession, to understand how they can escalate from what might seem like minor red flags into something unimaginable, a devastating act.
Absolutely. And we'll examine the profound ripple effects, both, immediate and long-term. So yeah, this deep dive is dedicated to truly understanding the profound impact of domestic violence within a teenage relationship and the relentless, determined journey to find justice for Kaylie Juga.
It's a case that really forces you to look closer at those hidden warning signs and how forensic diligence, that careful police work, can bring even the darkest secrets into the light.
The unimaginable afternoon a home invaded.
Okay, so to truly grasp the gravity of that horrific afternoon, we really need to begin with Kaylie herself. At just 16 years old, Kaylie Juga had this just immense, undeniable presence. She was the embodiment of youthful exuberance. A dedicated varsity cheerleader, a talented softball player, an honor roll student at Bradford High.
Everyone who knew her talked about her laugh. Contagious laughter, apparently. Like, she could make you laugh before she even got to the punchline.
That's what they said, yeah. She just possessed this undeniable zest for life and incredible spirit that really lit up every room she entered. And her relationship with her mother, Stephanie, was incredibly close. Their daily routine wasn't just school pickups. It was filled with these shared moments, listening to music, dancing around the house.
Like a real mother-daughter friendship, it sounds like. Pure joy and companionship.
Totally.
And it's precisely this ordinary, loving backdrop that makes the timeline of that day so incredibly chilling. Almost surreal, really. We know that shortly before 2:00 p.m. on May 9th, 2019, Stephanie, who actually ran her photography business from their home, she left their house on the 10900 block of 66th Street in Kenosha.
Right, just her normal routine.
Yeah.
A simple everyday act.
Yeah.
Driving to pick up Kaylie from school.
Exactly. And by roughly 2:20 p.m., mother and daughter were back, pulled into the driveway, garage door opens, and they entered their house, a place that, until that very moment had always been their sanctuary, their safe haven.
Once inside, it was just the familiar rhythm of their afternoon resumed. Music was playing, that shared laughter filled the air as they were dancing. Kaylie started getting ready for a part-time job, while Stephanie went to the master bathroom to finish trying her hair. It was, by all accounts, just a typical peaceful afternoon unfolding inside their home. Nothing seemed wrong.
But that peace was just about to be savagely shattered. Around 3:00 p.m., just as Stephanie was in the bathroom, a hooded figure, dressed entirely in black, slipped into the house.
Oh my God.
Entered completely undetected. Through the garage door that Stephanie had left open. Just a small, seemingly tiny detail in the rush of their day, right?
Right.
But one that became critically significant. Basically an open invitation.
And what makes this moment even more terrifying, almost chillingly, is that a neighbor's doorbell camera captured the sound.
Not the sight, the sound.
Not the sight of the intruder entering, no, but the utterly horrifying, chilling sound of 7 gunshots ringing out in that quiet residential neighborhood. You can only begin to imagine the immediate, visceral terror that sound must have instilled.
Stephanie's experience inside the house, it's truly the stuff of nightmares. She later recounted, with incredible clarity, hearing a blood-curdling scream from Kaylie's room.
Oh, no.
That was followed almost immediately by a distinct bang, and then another scream equally agonizing. Her maternal instinct, just primal, powerful, immediately took over.
Despite her fear, she rushed towards Kaylie's bedroom doorway, and that's where she came face to face with the unthinkable. Standing over her mortally wounded daughter was 15-year-old Martis Fuller, Kaylie's ex-boyfriend, with a gun in his hand.
Wait, she actually saw him there, standing over her daughter, holding the weapon? That's beyond comprehension.
She did. In that terrifying, surreal moment, Stephanie, despite the chaos, her utter shock, she pleaded with him. Her desperate words, later recounted in court, were, "You don't have to do this," a mother's plea, in the face of absolute horror.
And what he said next, and what he did, it's just utterly unbelievable. It speaks to such a chilling, calculated intent.
Fuller's reply was chillingly direct, devoid of hesitation, no remorse. "Yes, I have to."
Oh my God.
And then, without another word, he raised his arm and fired again, striking Stephanie in the wrist. She instinctively tried to escape, get behind her bedroom door, shield herself.
Right.
But he pursued her relentlessly, kicked the door open, fired yet again, and this time the shot hit her in the chest. My word, she's been shot twice, but still, her presence of mind, her sheer maternal instinct was just incredible. She was still thinking, still fighting for her life, even then.
She was. Despite her severe injuries, the overwhelming trauma, Stephanie managed to escape further into the master bathroom. And with remarkable fortitude, she locked herself in. From that precarious position, bleeding, in agonizing pain, she made two absolutely crucial phone calls. One to her husband, Nick, and the other to 911. That desperate call for help was placed at precisely 3:02 p.m.
Incredible. The speed and clarity of her actions under that kind of duress, nothing short of heroic. The response was immediate, right? Frantic, overwhelming. Kenosha Sheriff's Department deputies, EMTs, they arrived swiftly.
Yeah, they found Stephanie, despite her own grave wounds, vigorously performing CPR on Kaylie, clinging to that hope of saving her daughter. The scene must have been utterly unimaginable for those first responders.
Kaylie was rushed from the house to the front yard, where emergency personnel continued their desperate efforts to resuscitate her. But it was too late.
It was. She was pronounced deceased at the scene. The medical examiner later confirmed 5 gunshot wounds. 4 to the chest, 1 to the head. Injuries that, well, medical staff later deemed instantly fatal.
Just devastating. And Stephanie?
Stephanie was transported to a local hospital in serious condition. She underwent multiple surgeries, arm, chest, abdomen, and thankfully, against all odds, she survived. Her physical scars, though, a permanent reminder of the terror she endured.
Tracing the shadow, an investigation begins.
The immediate aftermath of something like this is always chaotic, isn't it? But investigators, even amidst all that raw emotion, they move with this precise swiftness.
Right, they have to.
At the crime scene, their initial sweep located 6 shell casings. Forensic technicians meticulously working the scene later discovered a 7th casing underneath a console table down at the bottom of the stairs.
So that suggests he moved through the house, maybe pursuing them.
Exactly. It suggests movement, repositioning, perhaps pursuit. They also found distinct blood droplets leading along the stairway, painting a path of the assailant's movements, and a projectile lodged at the top of the stairs. What was absolutely crucial, though, was in Kaylie's bedroom. A tightly clustered group of casings directly in front of her bedroom mirror.
Wow. Pinpointing where he stood.
Precisely. Not random. It pinpointed exactly where the shooter stood during the attack. And a projectile found lodged in the floorboard directly beneath where Kaylie was discovered. Tragically, it indicated a final, close-range shot, fired while standing directly over her.
God. Each piece of evidence, no matter how small, just starts mapping the trajectory of his rage.
It really does.
That paints such a vivid, terrifying picture of what unfolded inside that home, reconstructing those agonizing moments. And then there was this critical, almost serendipitous piece of evidence found outside, right, a short distance away.
Indeed. On the sidewalk strategically located between the Juga home and the nearby Horizon Park, investigators discovered a single bullet. Just one. But this wasn't just any bullet. It was the exact kind used in the shooting. Detectives speculated, with pretty strong evidence, that it had been dropped accidentally by the attacker, likely in his haste, maybe panic as he fled the scene.
A small detail, but a significant, undeniable physical link. So given Stephanie's terrifying eyewitness account, her direct identification, it sounds like Martis Fuller was an immediate, glaring focus for law enforcement.
Absolutely. Without question, their primary person of interest from the moment Stephanie spoke his name. He was 15, Kaylie's ex-boyfriend, and Stephanie had seen him fleeing.
So a manhunt begins.
Full-scale manhunt, yeah. Mobilizing all resources. However, they soon discovered that Martis hadn't actually been living at his mother's house for weeks.
Really? Where was he?
He was strategically bouncing between friends' homes, sleeping on couches, made him difficult to track. And his mother, Elise Fuller, she compounded the challenge by initially providing a false alibi, claimed he was home with her during the shooting.
Wow. So she lied for him.
Initially, yes. This deliberate obstruction complicated those crucial early stages of the search, momentarily diverting precious resources.
Okay, this raises an incredibly important question then. How did investigators, with Mardis seemingly off the grid and his mother actively trying to mislead them, how did they truly confirm their suspicions and meticulously piece together Fuller's movements?
Yeah.
What evidence finally, undeniably, connected him to that chilling scene? This is where it gets complex, right? Like assembling a puzzle.
Well, this is precisely where the crucial witness testimonies became the backbone of their developing case. They started to unravel his movements, his sinister intentions, with this startling, almost unbelievable clarity. First, there was Alexis, a friend of Martis's. She testified that she had given Martis a ride to another friend's house, a location strikingly close to the Juga household, at 1:00 p.m. on the very day of the shooting.
Okay, so he was nearby beforehand.
Exactly. And when she picked them up later, around 3:30 p.m., she noted two critical things. He was visibly upset, agitated, distressed, and his distinctive white trainers were extremely dirty, caked with mud.
The shoes, that's specific.
Very specific. That detail, his unusual state and the condition of his shoes, immediately raised red flags for her, and later, obviously, for investigators, is kind of the first breadcrumb.
So he was definitely in the vicinity, looking agitated and with distinctively dirty shoes. That's a powerful lead, a compelling circumstantial piece.
Yeah.
But what really sealed it, what moved it beyond suspicion to an undeniable breakthrough?
The true, undeniable breakthrough came from his own cousin, Anise Andrews. Martis turned up at her home in Racine at 9:00 p.m. on the night of the shooting, looking for a place to stay.
His cousin.
Yeah. Anise, feeling, a familial obligation, initially let him stay. But later, a team of detectives, they appealed directly to her conscience as a mother. Asked her to imagine the horrific scenario with her own children, to put herself in Stephanie Juga's shoes.
Wow, that's a powerful appeal.
It worked. It broke through. She cracked. Anise confessed with immense emotional weight that Martis had given her a full, chillingly detailed confession about what he had done.
He confessed. To his own cousin. What horrific details did he share with her? That must have been just devastating for her.
It was a confession that laid bare the sheer premeditation of his actions. He told Anise he had watched Kaylie's house for quite a while.
Locking her.
Essentially, yeah. He had meticulously studied their routines, knew her schedule, and specifically, chillingly, knew when she would be alone or primarily with her mother. He recounted that when he entered the house, Kaylie was listening to music in her room, totally oblivious. He stated he shot at her once, then in a moment of panic he described as freaking out, he snapped and shot at the mom twice.
Just a cold, precise account.
It was. And crucially, Anise, grappling with this, led police to a drain sewer in Racine County. There, Martis had wrapped the murder weapon, a handgun, in a diaper and dumped it.
Wrapped in a diaper.
Wow. Yeah. Detectives later confirmed this was the very weapon used in the attack. They firmly believed they would never have found the gun without her agonizing but vital help. And what's even more damning, this weapon matched a photograph of Martis himself, posing with that exact gun, which he'd shared with a friend just days before the shooting.
Okay, this is where it all truly comes together. The witness testimony, the confession, the recovered weapon. But the puzzle piece is really clicked into place with the cold, hard evidence of surveillance footage, right? This wasn't just a confession, it was a meticulously documented visual record.
Absolutely. The video evidence painted this undeniable picture, weaving the entire narrative together. Okay, so before the attack, just prior to 2:00 p.m., Maurice was dropped off by Alexis. An internal camera inside a friend's house caught him wearing dark jeans, a gray hoodie, those distinctive white sneakers, and a black backpack.
Got it.
Shortly after, he's seen leaving on a bike. Then a doorbell camera from a home across the street captures him riding leisurely towards Horizon Park, which, critically, is very near the Juga home. Anise later explained Martis had left his bike among the trees in the park. There, he changed clothes into his all-black attire and began to keep this meticulous watch on the Juga house.
Waiting.
His intention, he confessed to Anise, was to enter and shoot Kaylie once, maybe twice. He knew Kaylie's father, Nick, would be at work, and her younger brother, Mason, would still be at school. He'd scoped out their schedules, waiting for that precise window.
So he was casing the house, observing their routines, waiting for the exact moment when they'd be most vulnerable. That's pure calculated premeditation. not a spontaneous act of rage. It's chilling in its methodical nature.
Indeed. During the attack, the same camera across the street that had shown him earlier now captured a figure, dressed all in black, no backpack, though still wearing those distinctive white shoes approaching the Juga house.
The same figure.
Yes. This figure moved purposefully, deliberately, staying close to walls to avoid other potential cameras before slipping into the open garage door. After he entered, there was a minute and a half of just unsettling silence.
God, that silence must have felt like forever on the recording.
Then a single shot was heard. 16 agonizing seconds later, another shot, followed by a quick succession, 7 shots in total. A terrifying soundscape. The attacker was inside the home for a precise 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
That's a terrifyingly short amount of time for such devastation.
Yeah.
And then he was gone just as quickly.
Precisely. Post-attack, the same camera captured the figure sprinting from the garage, moving with this renewed, urgent speed, much faster on the bike, passing the home in only 2 seconds this time, traveling in the opposite direction from before.
Opposite direction, okay.
And crucially, he was now wearing the gray hoodie again, suggesting he had changed back into his original clothing before leaving the immediate area, just as Anise had described in her confession. This critical recording was timestamped at 3:04 p.m. A mere 2 minutes after Stephanie, despite her grave injuries, managed to call 911. The meticulous detail in the footage perfectly aligned with Anise's confession, corroborating every single word. It left virtually no room for doubt about Martis Fuller's presence and actions that day.
The obsessive shadow, a relationship unpacked.
So the evidence clearly points to Martis Fuller's presence, his actions that day, and the deliberate, calculated nature of them. But to truly understand the horror of May 9th, we need to peel back the layers, right? Examine the deeply troubling history that culminated in this violence.
Yep.
This wasn't a sudden, impulsive act, was it? The investigation revealed this deeply troubling pattern of behavior that predated the shooting, showing this was a chilling escalation.
You're absolutely right. When Martis and Kaylie first started their relationship, it seemed, on the surface, quite normal. Even idyllic, perhaps. Martis was generally well received by the Juga family.
Right. You mentioned he was an athlete, had college plans.
Exactly. Seemingly a good influence. He often had dinner with them, sometimes 2-3 times a week. Yeah. Stayed into the evenings, watched movies with the family. He even went to Kaylie's little brother Mason's football games, cheered him on. Spent major holidays, including Christmas Day, at the Juga home. He was familiar, a seemingly welcome presence, deeply integrated.
He sounds like he was truly part of the family, completely embraced. So what changed? How did this seemingly healthy, integrated relationship sour so dramatically?
Well, over the course of about 10 months, the relationship just spiraled into this increasingly unhealthy, dangerous dynamic. Martis developed this intense, almost suffocating, controlling need for constant contact with Kaylie.
How so?
He would call and text her incessantly, demanding she keep him on video calls, even when she was trying to do homework, watching TV with her family, or just messaging other friends. If she was out with friends, he'd still call and text without pause, demanding her attention.
That sounds exhausting and controlling.
It is. And this love-bombing phase where he was so integrated, that's a common tactic in abusive relationships, right? It builds trust, then allows for that subtle, then overt erosion of the victim's autonomy.
Did anyone try to step in?
Stephanie, Kaylie's mother, she tried to intervene. Sat him down, explained his behavior was disruptive, setting a clear boundary. But he just rejected her request, laughed it off, and chillingly continued his relentless calls and demands.
He just ignored her. Wow.
Yeah. And for teenagers, navigating identity, first relationships, this kind of intense, demanding behavior can be really hard to recognize as abuse. Sometimes it's mistaken for intense affection or passion,
That makes sense. So the issues weren't just personal on their phones. They visibly spilled over into their public school lives. How did this control manifest and escalate within the high school environment, with teachers, security around?
Yeah, the school environment, unfortunately, became another arena for his escalating control. It began with social media, accusations.
The usual teenage drama, but maybe worse.
Kind of, but with a sinister edge. Rumors started circulating Martis was seeing another girl. So he, in turn, launched similar baseless accusations at Kaylie, turning it around on her. We know Kaylie was profoundly distressed by this because she tweeted things like, "I didn't do anything, can never believe me, I swear to God, sick and tired of this." It clearly shows the emotional toll his behavior was taking.
It must have been incredibly difficult for her, feeling unsafe even at school. What did the school do? Did they try to intervene?
The school administration did attempt to intervene, yeah. They recognized the escalating tension. There was one significant incident in a Bradford High hallway where Martis physically blocked Kaylie's path, cornered her, and aggressively demanded her cell phone.
Publicly.
Publicly! The situation was so confrontational that school security had to be called to physically restrain him, separate him from Kaylie. This very public, frightening confrontation left Kaylie in tears, a clear sign of the immense impact his aggressive, controlling behavior was having.
That must have been terrifying for her, feeling threatened in what should be a safe space. What concrete steps did the school take after that?
The school responded with strict measures. They instructed Martis to actively keep his distance from Kaylie, altered class schedules to ensure they were separated, couldn't interact in common areas.
Okay, so trying to create physical distance.
Right. And they established this clear, unequivocal agreement with him. One more outburst, one more incident of disruptive or aggressive behavior towards Kaylie meant immediate expulsion. Loss of sports, loss of scholarship chances. A serious, explicit warning with huge consequences.
Did he abide by that agreement, given the stakes?
Sadly, no. Despite the clear warnings, the severe consequences, Martis violated that agreement in February, just a few months later. He cornered Kaylie again, repeating his aggressive, controlling behavior.
He did it again. Unbelievable.
And this incident wasn't just witnessed by multiple teachers, but critically, it was also caught on school surveillance cameras. Despite the clear visual evidence, Martis defiantly denied it, tried to gaslight everyone. As a direct result of this blatant violation, he was expelled from Bradford High. Reports indicated he was absolutely furious about this outcome. And chillingly, he blamed both Kaylie and her mother for his expulsion, for losing his spot on the football team, twisting the reality of his own actions.
So with Martis expelled and the relationship officially over, what did this mean for Kaylie? What was the impact on her daily life, her sense of safety?
After his expulsion, Kaylie made the courageous decision she'd had enough. She definitively ended the relationship. She even posted about someone, assumed to be Martis, taking advantage of her, urging herself to start having respect for yourself and don't let that happen.
Good for her. But it didn't stop him, did it?
No, it only seemed to ignite his possessive tendencies, escalating his behavior dramatically. He responded by relentlessly stalking her every move, made her life this constant state of unease.
How bad did the stalking get?
Kaylie's tweet, "Keep lurking, baby," shows she was acutely aware of his presence. He was repeatedly spotted walking back and forth outside the Juga house in the afternoons, sometimes for extended periods. Even more unsettling, he was observed lurking at night, secretly looking towards her bedroom window while the family slept. A deeply disturbing invasion of her private space.
That's incredibly unsettling. A truly terrifying invasion of privacy and peace. Feeling like you're constantly being watched, even in your own home.
Absolutely. Kaylie tried desperately to evade him, to create boundaries he just refused to respect. She blocked his number. But Martis, undeterred, started using friends' phones to call her, sometimes having them speak briefly before handing the phone over.
Oh, that's manipulative.
Totally. Kaylie started blocking those numbers too, an exhausting, never-ending process. She and her girlfriends even made a pact, a desperate measure. No more posting selfies or sharing plans on social media for fear Martis would see their location and turn up uninvited.
They had to change their entire online presence just to avoid him.
They were essentially altering their whole existence, their youthful freedoms, just to avoid his constant, menacing presence.
And the impact was even more far-reaching, wasn't it? It affected her ability to just live a normal teenage life, even her first job.
Tragically, yes. At just 15, Kaylie was forced to resign from her very first job at a local laundromat because she no longer felt safe being alone at work.
She had to quit her job because of him.
Yes. The owner tried to help, blocked Martis's number from the business line, allowed Kaylie to keep the doors locked. But despite these measures, Kaylie was constantly on edge. Her anxiety was a persistent companion. In an April letter to her employer, just heartbreaking, she stated she needed to find a job with multiple people around and where he will not know where I work.
God, that's awful, just wanting to feel safe at work.
She eventually found a new job, desperately hoping he wouldn't find out about it. This highlights the profound, inescapable fear she was living under. A fear that forced a young girl to give up her independence, a normal part of growing up, simply because she couldn't escape the shadow of her ex-boyfriend. And, this case tragically underscores the immense challenges institutions like schools, workplaces face in identifying and effectively intervening in domestic violence among minors. The school took clear steps, right? But the perpetrator's determination to maintain control often transcends those formal boundaries, highlights the need for broader community familial awareness.
The path to conviction, undeniable evidence.
This deep dive reveals just this pattern of behavior that intensified dramatically, moving from possessiveness to outright stalking, fundamentally reshaping Kaylie's life. But how did prosecutors tie this disturbing history, this obsessive shadow, directly to the events of May 9th? How did they prove this wasn't just some sudden breakdown, but a calculated, premeditated act?
That's precisely what the prosecution set out to prove. And they did so with remarkable precision, presenting their case through what they called two timelines.
Two timelines. Explain that.
The first were Kaylie's reality. Her desperate, courageous attempts to escape a toxic relationship, to stay safe, reclaim her autonomy. The second was Martis's reality. His progressive, escalating anger over losing control, first over Kaylie, then over his own life, like his expulsion.
Okay, I see.
This progression, they argue forcefully, led to a series of increasingly violent decisions, culminating in the fatal act. They methodically laid out the evidence piece by piece, showing May 9th wasn't an impulse, but the grim culmination of a calculated plan.
So he wasn't just angry. He was actively, methodically planning this. What did that planning involve? What were the chilling steps he took leading up to that afternoon?
Well, it started with the acquisition of a weapon. In the weeks leading up to the shooting, Martis actively spoke with multiple friends about getting a gun and ammunition.
He told people he wanted a gun.
Yes. And he successfully obtained both, demonstrating a clear, deliberate intent to arm himself. In fact, in this chilling display of arrogance, he was photographed posing with his newly acquired handgun just 7 days before the shooting.
Posing with the gun, wow.
Yeah, and he brazenly bragged about it to friends, left behind this digital footprint of his lethal intentions. It wasn't a sudden decision. It was a clear, chilling act of premeditation, carefully documented.
It's horrifying to think he didn't just get a weapon, but he also explicitly stated his intentions to others, right? It wasn't a secret.
He did. The depth of his malicious intent became even clearer through his own words. Just 3 days before the attack, he explicitly told a friend that Kaylie had ruined his life, and shockingly, that he wanted to kill her.
He actually said that. Kill her.
Explicitly. 2 days before the attack, his obsession compelled him to actively search her Facebook page, desperately trying to locate her, trying to track her down, pinpoint her movements before the final act.
And his actions on the very day of the shooting itself, they weren't spontaneous either, were they? Meticulously planned, down to the escape.
Not at all. His pre-attack actions on May 9th showed deliberate, chilling planning. He took a bike from one friend and strategically stashed it at another's home, only blocks from the Juga house.
So he could get away quickly.
Exactly. Allowed him to arrive discreetly, on foot, without drawing attention, and crucially, make a swift getaway immediately after. He also continued his chilling pattern of staking out the street, day and night, meticulously observing the Juga home. He was intimately aware of the family's schedule, knew precisely when Nick would be at work, Mason at school, meticulously ensuring Kaylie and Stephanie would be alone, vulnerable. Every step was calculated.
That's truly chilling, watching and waiting.
Right.
But then there was also a direct solicitation for help. He asked someone to help him.
Yes, on the very morning of May 9th, the day of the shooting, Martis reached out to his friend Desiree at 11:52 a.m., sent her a text asking her to do that hit with him.
Do that hit. What did she think that meant?
Desiree testified she understood this phrase, chillingly, to mean killing Kaylie, just like he had talked about the day before, saying, "I'm so mad you need to do that to her."
And what did Desiree do?
Desiree refused to take part. But tragically, she didn't report the conversation until after Kaylie had passed away, a decision that must just haunt her. These details painted this clear, undeniable picture of premeditation, an escalating intent to cause grievous harm, and a terrifyingly cold determination.
It's incredible how many seemingly disparate pieces came together, revealing the complete picture. What about the legal battle itself, the courtroom drama? Martis Fuller's defense against what seems like overwhelming evidence.
Well, the legal process began with Martis Fuller being charged as an adult, facing severe penalties. First-degree intentional homicide for Kaylie, attempted first-degree intentional homicide for Stephanie, and armed burglary. He pleaded not guilty to all charges.
And the trial started when?
It was initially scheduled for February 2020, but faced significant unsettling delays. One major reason, Martis was accused of jury tampering while he was in jail.
Jury tampering.
Seriously.
Yeah. Disturbing jail phone calls revealed he had somehow memorized potential juror names from a chart and then, shockingly, tried to contact them. attempting to influence the very people who would decide his fate.
Unbelievable. Did he admit to that?
He later pleaded guilty to communicating with jurors, an act that just further revealed his manipulative nature, his disregard for the judicial process, and his mother, Elise Fuller, also added to the volatile atmosphere, arrested for an outburst in court during a pretrial hearing, charged with obstructing an officer.
Wow, the whole situation sounds incredibly tense.
Yeah, it underscored the intense, emotional, and often unpredictable nature surrounding the case even before the main trial began.
The trial itself must have been incredibly emotional, especially for Kaylie's family. Reliving those horrors, what were some of the key testimonies that really stood out? Absolutely. The testimony of Jill Schmenson, the assistant principal and disciplinarian at Bradford High, was particularly impactful. She testified Martis Fuller was fundamentally different from other misbehaving teens she'd dealt with. She candidly stated to the court she was scared of him.
The disciplinarian was scared of him. That says a lot.
It really does. A powerful admission from an experienced professional. She vividly described his intense, almost irrational anger over being separated from Kaylie, his relentless, aggressive calls to overturn his expulsion, even calling her a liar and putting his finger in her face. Pure intimidation.
That's aggressive.
She eventually had to hang up on him for her own safety, highlighted his disturbing lack of control, utter disrespect for authority.
And then there was Kaylie Juga's testimony, the sole surviving witness. That must have been incredibly compelling, raw, devastating for the jury.
Her testimony was, without a doubt, one of the most powerful, heartbreaking moments of the entire trial. Stephanie recounted with remarkable composure, despite her pain, that chilling moment in Kaylie's bedroom. She unequivocally identified Martis directly, recalled his cold, unfeeling, "yes, I have to," response to her desperate plea, her vivid description of trying to save Kaylie, her own daughter, despite her own severe, life-threatening injuries, stating it was very painful, but I didn't care. Trying to save her was more important, was profoundly moving.
Just unimaginable strength.
She remained composed, yet her deep, enduring pain was palpable, resonated throughout the courtroom.
And Anise Andrews, his own cousin who led police to the murder weapon, her testimony must have been utterly damning, connected so many threads.
Anise's testimony was indeed a cornerstone of the prosecution's case. She elaborated on Martis's full confession, him watching the house, his intimate knowledge of the schedule, his precise actions inside. She explained with a heavy heart she initially didn't want to turn him in, torn by family loyalty. But detectives appealed to her deeply, as a mother herself, asked how she'd feel if it were her child.
That appeal again.
That powerful human appeal led her to reveal the crucial details. Him watching the house, entering when Kaylie was alone, shooting her, then shooting Stephanie. Her raw, honest account, paired with the undeniable physical evidence of the recovered weapon linked directly to Martis, formed this unassailable foundation.
What were the defense's main arguments against such a seemingly airtight case? It sounds like the evidence was just overwhelmingly stacked against him. What could they possibly argue?
Well, the defense faced an incredibly steep uphill battle, yeah. But their strategy was mainly to sow doubt. Introduce just enough uncertainty to maybe sway a juror.
How did they try to do that?
They argued Stephanie Juga, in the sheer chaos and trauma of the attack, might have genuinely misidentified the killer. Their claim was, because of the pre-existing conflict, it would be natural to assume it was Martis, even if it was a stranger.
Blaming the trauma.
Right. They also asserted investigators had tunnel vision, focusing solely on Martis after Stephanie's identification and neglecting to seek other crucial physical evidence like DNA or fingerprints to be absolutely sure. Furthermore, they launched this direct attack on the prosecution's timeline, claimed it was impossible for Martis to flee, change clothes, and ride away on a bike in just 4 minutes, trying to poke holes in that sequence.
Those are some incredibly bold claims, especially given the volume and corroborating nature of the evidence. How did the prosecution rebut those arguments, dismantle that strategy?
The prosecution systematically and powerfully dismantled the defense's claims, left little room for doubt. They dismissed the misidentification idea as absurd coincidences, a desperate attempt to ignore the overwhelming evidence. They powerfully argued how improbable, how absolutely impossible it would be for an innocent person's own cousin to know so many intimate details of the crime, the actions inside, the number of shots, the sequence, and crucially, lead police directly to the murder weapon.
Right, the gun he was photographed with.
Exactly. A gun matching a photo of Martis himself, posing with it just days before. The sheer unlikelihood, they argued, defied all logic.
And what about the timeline, the 4 minutes?
On the critical timeline argument, they provided precise measurements and calculations, showed the defense's claim was simply unfounded. The distance from Horizon Park to the Juga house, only 0.32 miles. An athlete like Martin Marsh could sprint that in under a minute. The distance from the park to the doorbell camera where he was seen returning on the bike, even shorter, 0.17 miles. Maybe 30-40 seconds on a bike. This, they meticulously demonstrated, left a comfortable 2 to 3 minutes for him to change from his all-black attack clothing, which the prosecution suggested was maybe a lightweight black warm-up suit designed for quick changes, like an athlete might use back into his original gray hoodie.
So plenty of time, really.
This meticulous temporal spatial analysis, supported by the surveillance footage, left the jury with virtually no doubt about the feasibility of his escape. Proved the timeline was entirely plausible.
This level of detail, both from the crime and the trial, paints a very clear, undeniable picture for you, the listener. With all of that laid out, what was the jury's response?
After just 3 hours of deliberation, incredibly swift given the gravity of the charges, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all 3 counts. First-degree intentional homicide, attempted first-degree intentional homicide, and armed burglary.
3 hours. Wow.
The verdict was delivered March 19, 2021, and it was, notably, the first time Martis Fuller showed any visible emotion during the entire 6-day trial. Upon hearing the verdict, he finally broke down, crying, resting his head on the table, the weight of his actions seemingly crashing down on him in that moment.
The weight of justice, sentencing, and lasting impact.
So, with the conviction secured, the focus shifted to the harrowing sentencing phase. This is where the raw, agonizing emotion of the victims and the full crushing weight of the legal consequences really came to the forefront. A deeply poignant moment.
Yeah, the sentencing hearing took place on May 21st, 2021. It was an incredibly profound, emotional day, particularly during the victim impact statements, which allow those affected to directly address the court and the perpetrator. Stephanie Juga, Kaylie's mother, delivered this incredibly poignant, heartbreaking statement to Judge Mary Kay Wagner, expressing her profound, irreplaceable loss with a strength that just belied her immense pain.
What did she say?
She spoke of Kaylie being constantly by her side, her cherished companion. Whether we were shopping, going to the gym, going to Starbucks, watching Netflix, jamming in the car to music, or just dancing like crazy in the kitchen, she was always by my side. She was my biggest cheerleader. Now I am lost.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Her words painted such a vivid picture of the everyday joys brutally ripped away. She vividly described the physical scars from her own injuries, the pain that continues to this day, a constant aching presence. She mourned the countless milestones ripped away. Graduation, college, marriage, children. Kaylie even had dreams of adoption, all extinguished. Kaylie's father, Nick Juga, a service member, also submitted a powerful, deeply moving letter, expressing his devastating, unyielding grief and the profound void left in their lives.
The prosecution, after presenting such a meticulous case, clearly felt very strongly about the severity of Martis's actions. What was their impassioned plea to the judge regarding the sentence?
Kenosha County District Attorney Michael Gravely argued forcefully for the maximum penalty. He reiterated with compelling gravity that the case's roots were firmly embedded in domestic violence, portraying Fuller not just as a criminal, but as one of those rare individuals willing to kill to maintain control.
Willing to kill to maintain control.
Yeah.
Chilling.
Gravely underscored the chilling, pervasive lack of remorse Martis had displayed throughout the entire process, stating with disbelief, "It's stunning that there's no remorse in this case." He concluded his powerful address with this tragic declaration that really resonated. "The Juga home, Your Honor, is a tomb. Their home is a graveyard of memories."
Wow, a graveyard of memories. And what about Martis Fuller himself, now 18 at sentencing? After hearing the victim impact statements, the overwhelming evidence, did he express any remorse?
Martis Fuller chose to have his attorney read a prepared statement on his behalf. In it, he offered an apology for the pain suffered by the family and for the loss of his ex-girlfriend Kay that I love too.
Okay, an apology.
However, his statement contained this deeply controversial, self-serving element. He simultaneously maintained his innocence.
Wait, he apologized but still said he was innocent?
Yes. He stated, "Truthfully, I am sorry about the pain you've all suffered, but more importantly, the loss of my ex-girlfriend Kay that I love too. So I am sorry, despite the hatred that is against me. I still am sorry, but I have to continue to stand innocent because I am. And I know that I barely showed emotion. But in all honesty, it is, because it's hard to have tears left to cry knowing my mom lost a son, one of her children too.
That's quite something. Apologizing for their pain while denying responsibility and comparing his mother's loss to theirs.
It was a stark juxtaposition, yeah. An apology for their pain, but a defiant refusal to take responsibility for the act itself, framing his own mother's grief as somehow parallel to the suffering he inflicted.
So he apologized for the situation, but not for being the perpetrator. What did his defense attorney argue for, knowing the severity of the charges and the verdict?
Fuller's attorney, recognizing the dire situation, appealed for a degree of future possibility for his young client. He asked for the possibility of extended supervision after Martis served 25 to 30 years.
So parole eligibility after 25, 30 years?
Essentially, yes. He made a plea to give someone so young some ability to think that one day they may be able to walk in the world, a chance to make amends for the tremendous pain and sorrow he caused.
But the judge's response was stark, unwavering, utterly definitive. She didn't mince words, did she?
Not at all. Judge Mary Kay Wagner granted the state's request for the maximum penalty. She sentenced Martis Fuller to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Life without parole.
Life without parole. The sentences for attempted murder and armed burglary were to be served concurrently to one another, but crucially consecutive to the life term, ensuring he would remain incarcerated for the remainder of his life. Judge Wagner delivered this stern, unsparing address directly to Fuller, calling him a very dangerous and damaged human being. She specifically noted he did not have a damaged childhood or a history of mental illness, dismantling potential mitigating factors.
That's a very clear and powerful statement from the bench. What was her precise reasoning for delivering such a definitive, irrevocable sentence? It speaks to a profound lack of trust in his potential for rehabilitation.
Her assessment was incredibly critical, deeply damning. She stated with absolute conviction, "The court has no trust whatsoever that what brought you to this murder and attempted murder is repaired or repairable ever."
Wow, not repairable ever.
She chastised his calculated actions, the chilling premeditation, his disturbing, pervasive lack of remorse throughout the legal process. She highlighted his attempts at jury tampering, other charges he accrued while in custody, further cementing her view of his character. Her conclusion was chillingly direct, leaving no room for ambiguity. "You seem to have no ethos, no regret, no sorrow, no empathy. I don't have any ability to trust that you will never commit these acts again."
Just no trust.
It was a reflection of the court's unwavering view that he posed an irreparable, lifelong danger to society, and that the only just outcome was permanent incarceration.
Martis Fuller is currently serving his sentence at the Green Bay Correctional Institute in Wisconsin. His family, despite everything, continues to visit him often. A quiet testament to their enduring connection, I suppose.
And the lasting impact of Kaylee's passing continues to be felt profoundly, even now, just over 5 years later. Stephanie Juga, on what would have been Kaylee's 20th birthday, shared words that capture that enduring, heartbreaking grief, a wound that never truly heals.
What did she say then?
She said, "We celebrate Kay, even though it's not the same, and this is our 5th birthday without her." I mean, how could it be 5 birthdays without her? And it just seems like everything happened yesterday.
It just seems like everything happened yesterday. God. It's a poignant reminder that while justice may be served, the pain of loss endures. A constant, heavy shadow over the lives of those left behind. Outro. This deep dive into the tragic case of Kaylie Juga. It just shows us the profound, destructive ripple effects of unchecked control and obsession. It leaves you, our listener, wondering about the critical, vital importance of recognizing those often subtle red flags in relationships, especially among young people, before they escalate into unimaginable, irreversible tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder that even seemingly small, controlling behaviors can be harbingers of something far more sinister.
And this powerful, deeply sad case raises an important, maybe unsettling question for all of us, right?
Yeah.
In an age where so much of our lives, our relationships, our interactions, our movements are meticulously documented in a digital footprint, from social media posts to ubiquitous doorbell camera footage.
Everywhere, yeah.
How does this ever-present digital evidence fundamentally reshape our understanding of motive, our ability to gather proof, and ultimately the pursuit of justice? Does it empower victims, or does it perhaps offer new avenues for perpetrators to monitor and control?
Something to ponder, perhaps, as you reflect on this powerful and deeply sad case and consider the unseen dynamics that play out in lives around us every single day.